The first half of the Giants season was absolutely, unequivocally a massive disappointment. Massively disappointing. 47-50 is terrible. Unacceptable, all of those things. And I'm not feigning anger here. It's 2/3 through. I know people, it's a halfway mark. It's way past the halfway mark. But we're coming up real quick here on 2/3 of the way through the season. And you know, I think that Farhan Zaidi tried to speak to this last week, and it's difficult for him to do it right now because he is easily the most blamed one, and nobody wants to hear the one who they blame say, boy, this is disappointing. Nobody, like, Farhan, people are mad at you. They're mad at you. Is that fair? On some levels, yes, and on some levels, very much no. He put this team together. He can't keep Blake Snell healthy. He can't keep Jung-Hoo Lee from running into the wall. We can have, like, there's all that stuff.
He can't make Jorge Soler produce with runners on base.
No, but at the same time, when you're the GM and you sign a guy to a 3-year contract, if he doesn't produce, that is also partially on you.
He can't make Camilo Doval get people out in the 9th inning. That's your closer.
Correct.
That's the guy you've tabbed. Now, can he be responsible for the minor leaguers? Yeah, and the production therein. So I think he gets credit for Elliot Ramos, even though he didn't draft him. He has been the one presiding over his development. So, and, you know, people want to blame him, or people don't want to give him credit because of the circumstances that brought Ramos to the bigs and that brought Matos up. It was injuries. It wasn't your vision. So you can look at it however you want to look at it. I think that Farhan was charged with doing certain things, and he went out there and for the most part did those things, and the team's not producing. So is that on him? I don't think so, but he will be the one who ultimately will bear the brunt end of the sword if this thing continues to go this way.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually something we can play with here for a second. You know, 888-957-9570, this is a real simple question that you just proposed. Is this on him? Is this on him? I mean, there's two different ways to answer it, I think. And one of them is, I guess, the way that you just answered it, which is to say, in no logical way can we respond and say this is all on him. That doesn't make any sense. However, here's the other side. Somewhere today, Gabe Kapler is like, it wasn't all my fault either. But I was in a boss position and it wasn't going well, so you fired me. That's part of being the boss. And the baseball operations right now haven't worked. They haven't worked. I will not give a name, but I will give the words. A high-placed confidant said to me over the weekend, there's nothing exciting about this team right now. Nothing.
Well, you could ask most fans, and they would say the same thing. Like, Logan Webb is your best pitcher. He's an all-star. I wouldn't necessarily say that he is exciting. If you're a baseball person, it's fun to watch him pitch and watch him produce ground ball after ground ball, but he's not exactly exciting. And beyond that, from an on-field talent standpoint, Elliot Ramos is exciting, but even at that, many fans are still having a hard time grasping what he is and what all the things he's doing are. Jung-Hoo Lee, he's exciting.
Yeah, he's kind of exciting.
Out for the year. Camilo Doval can be exciting, but he's been on the struggle bus so much that he's not exciting. And you go around the team and you don't really have that. You don't have a lot of buzz at the ballpark. And you were there on Saturday. And to really garner exciting moments, you had to bring out 4 pitchers from 10 years ago and celebrate them to kind of create buzz.
For like an hour and a half.
Right. And it's...
You know what's interesting, though? And I'm probably the wrong person to answer this question because you know me. I'll watch baseball in the local park. Like, I love, hell, I'll watch basketball in the local park. I'll watch football in the local park. I love going to games. And so I go to as many games as possible, and I don't need the Giants to be in first place to encourage me to buy a ticket and to bring my kids and the lovely Christy or whoever down to the ballpark. That's not me. But I must not be alone. The ballpark is jammed. It's jammed. Saturday, I look up to the corner outfield upper deck.
Yeah, left field.
It's jammed. It's jammed. Attendance is great.
Yeah, it's better.
It's great. They're like objectively, the front office has got to be thrilled with the attendance figures.
Up 10% from last year.
That's a big number.
Yep.
Why? Why is it up? Weather's been great.
Yep.
The team is not, I know, they're unwatchable. They're not unwatchable. They're not the most watchable thing I've ever seen, but they're not like gross. They're not awful, but they are just unequivocally, you're just there. They can't go on a winning streak. They can't go on a losing streak. They're too good to lose 5 in a row. They're not good enough to win 5 in a row. That's what they really need. A simple 5-game winning streak would, I think, activate the fan base at a pretty high level. But they're not good enough to do it. They're just not good enough to do it. There's always going to be 1 or 2 games in that 5-game stretch where they only score 2 runs, or they do something silly in the field, or a starting pitcher looks overwhelmed, or Camilo Duvall blows one, or whatever. That's all they need. But I've been wanting, like, if I could go seat to seat and poll people this year, because in the echo chamber in which we live, we hear the same thing that we've heard the last 2 years. Oh, they're kind of boring. They're not good enough. Fire Farhan. But then you go to the yard, and it doesn't feel like that at all. It's jammed. It's absolutely jammed with happy people. It's one of the reasons I love going there. But why? Why are the fans showing up with their wallets in ways that they have not the last 2 years?
I think that there's a lot of factors, and they got 34,000 yesterday, so not quite a sellout, but jammed, crowded.
Yeah, I don't mean sold out, but it's full.
It's more full than it has been, and I do think that the weather is a part of it, and also, still emerging from COVID is another factor, and so I think that people are now more willing to go out there, and the Saturday, celebration of the Core Four was a thing. And so Saturday was 32,000. Yesterday was 34, so even bigger than that. But I do think that with the weather is a big factor, and people are starting to get back into going to baseball again.
What was Friday night? Do you have the attendance figures?
34.
Right there?
34, and then 32.5, and then 34 was the series.
You get 34 on a Friday night. Weather wasn't that great this weekend. It was fine. Wasn't hot. You know what I mean? It was like, that's a phenomenal weekend.
Yeah.
That's
a good weekend, especially for Minnesota.
100,000 people came to watch the Twins.
Yeah.
And a team with a losing record. So, I don't know. I wonder if there aren't portions of the Giants front offices that are like scoreboard. Yeah. You guys could sit here and be mad all you want, but you're not reacting the way that an angry fan base would normally react.
I don't think it's an angry fan base. And, 888-957-9570 if you're angry, if you're frustrated.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be. But I'm angry, Jeff.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I don't know if the fan base is angry as much as they are just kind of nonplussed and disinterested to an extent. Because, this team used to draw 40, and now they're drawing 34. Last couple of years, they only were drawing 30, so it is an uptick, but it's not quite to where it used to be. And just the general feeling I get from more casual fans is they're not that attracted to a team that hovers around 500. And like you said, they don't have a 5-game win streak this year. They do have a 5-game losing streak,
they do.
But it feels like they'll win 7 of 11, and then they'll lose 8 of 13.
Sure.
And it's just kind of that yo-yo, that back and forth. They haven't really grasped an identity this year. They're just a mediocre team. They have some good players. They have some bad players. And in general, they're just okay. They're fine.
I love that. This is good players. This is a bad player. Who are their bad players? Hold that answer. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, an Odyssey Sports Station. always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, and we love seeing you over there. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. For a low-rate auto loan, apply online or just ask for First NorCal financing at the dealer. I mean, if I take away Luke Jackson, who's too obvious of an answer, who are the Giants, as you would put them right now, bad players?
Well, I would say Wilmer Flores is a bad player.
You think so?
This year, he's not having a very good year.
But I mean, part-time player, veteran presence. He can still hit.
Right.
He can hit.
OPS of 592 with 4 home runs. He's had a bad year.
Yeah.
So he's 32, and he looks to me like a guy who's, getting down to the last legs. He can't run, and, when he's over there in the first base platoon, and he's played a good amount, 238 plate appearances, hasn't been great. So I would chalk him up as a bad player.
Okay, before you continue on this, because we already did this with the pitching staff, let's do it with the offense. You don't have it in front of you, do you?
The WAR?
Yeah.
The wins above replacement?
Right,
I don't.
So, the negative WAR. We did this before. There were 3 negative WAR pitchers on the Giants' active roster. That means healthy, active, on the roster right now. It was Doval, it was Luke Jackson, and it was Blake Snell, who I think we all agree circumstantial. Nobody wants to give Blake Snell away. He's kind of pitched okay last 2 times out. Now, you already mentioned Wilmer Flores. I'm going to give you that. He is one of them. Now, with that said, there are 2 other negative WAR offensive players currently on the Giants' active roster. Dan Dibley, can you name them?
Come on, Dibs. You're 2 for 2. You got it.
Can I get some game show music, Randy? Or can we only do that in the afternoon? Before you browbeat me.
You got to go find a different page.
There it is. All right. Thank you.
Can you name them?
The 2 other negative WAR players, I would have to think that one of yesterday's heroes would be among them. Tyro Estrada has got to be negative WAR.
That is correct.
Oh, it's so big.
In fact, he leads the offensive team in negative WAR.
Yeah.
At negative 0.6.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You could call him another bad player as how he's played this year.
Which kind of hurts my heart because Tyro,
he's been great, but he's not having a good year.
I like Tyro. No, he's not. He's hitting 220.
The other one it's a tough one to pull.
This is a tough one. Let's see if you can do it.
I'm going to go
Just
with...
put your you-know-what into it. Let's go.
I'm going to get in the squad and go with Kurt Casale as a negative WAR player.
Oh, gosh, I fooled you.
Oh,
Kurt Casale is at a positive 0.3.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry. All of the goodwill that you had built through the first hour plus of the show is gone. You now have egg on your face.
Yeah.
The other negative WAR player on offense for the Giants, happens to be the guy that so many were crying about a month ago because he wasn't on the team. And that is Luis Matos. Luis Matos right now has been a negative 0.1 WAR.
Okay.
Same as Wilmer Flores, in fact. Same exact number. Negative 0.1.
Negative 0.1.
Yes. 2 other.
And if you take out that super week that he had to start the year.
I wonder if it would be, negative 0.2 or something like that.
Because he has 24 runs batted in, and I think he had 14 in that 5-game stretch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So,
2 players who the Giants rid themselves of just a week ago were both negative WAR players.
Nick Ahmed
and Austin Slater.
Right.
We're both at a negative WAR so far.
So even when you did that little bit of a roster shuffle, you still haven't really found much of your footing offensively, and that's what makes the Camilo Doval question even more dramatic. As you pointed out earlier, these are the games you have to win, and you win yesterday 3-2 on as Grandy called it this morning at 5, a Little League home run, which is what it was. A ball that probably should have been played better in center. And then what the hell are you doing on that throw to third? Not only were you not going to get him, but that ball went 17 feet over the third baseman's head.
So can I say a quick thing about that kid?
Please.
That kid's name is Brooks Lee. And I have got a very, very soft spot in my heart for Brooks Lee. He is playing second base for the Minnesota Twins. He is a switch hitter who was born in San Luis Obispo, California, And as recently as 2 years ago, when I'm teaching my class at Cal Poly, we do for the final for that class, they broadcast a baseball game. So 2 years ago, and we used to do this every year, 2 years ago, I go down there in the spring, and the students all do a live stream of the baseball game. Well, playing shortstop that day was a kid by the name of Brooks Lee. Now, a few things about Brooks Lee. Brooks' dad is the longtime coach at Cal Poly. So you've got manager and son out there on the field together. Another factoid. 3 years ago, Brooks Lee was drafted by the San Francisco Giants.
Oh, wow.
In the 35th round, coming out of high school. He opted to not go in round 35 and instead do 3 years at Cal Poly, and he upped his round from 35 to 1. He was a top 10 pick of the Minnesota Twins after that 2022 season. In less than 2 full seasons in the minors, he's already worked his way up to the bigs. He's only been in the bigs for about 3 weeks, and he was hitting over 300. Second base, not his most natural position. None of that to be an excuse. He made a massive rookie mistake. He thought upon receiving that ball, he was going to have a shot at Yaz over there at third base, which he didn't. And so he made a desperation throw. He did not take his time. He made a horrible throw. There was nobody backing up in the right spot. And,
the right spot would have been the 7th row.
The
right spot was the dugout. That ball was
and there were people in the dugout.
Yeah, there were.
But they weren't Twins.
They were the Giants.
Yeah.
So, and that's got to be one of the better walk-off celebrations from Yaz because he sees the ball whistle in the dugout and immediately the helmet comes off.
You don't have to hustle.
No, 90 feet of just pure joy, knowing that it's over.
Yeah, you do not need to slide.
No.
It was over. But anyway, yeah, that's Brooks Lee.
Interesting, yeah.
And so I was very, very happy for him that he's already gotten the call up to the bigs. He can really rake, and he's off to a good start, but not on that play.
No.
Not on that play.
And a much-needed win for the Giants.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
Well, to go into the break 5 under as opposed to 3 under, I know you're still under and you're 3 games out of the wild card, but just the optics of not only limping in with a loss to Minnesota in a series, but being 5 games below 500 would be a lot tougher this week on Farhan Zaidi and the general Giants conversation.
That would have been a terrible taste in the mouth that you would have had to deal with all week long. So, yes, they absolutely needed that, but they remain in what I find to be an unacceptable position.
Yeah.
You can't walk out of there and be, okay, we took 2 out of 3 from the Twins. You're in 4th place. You're in 4th place in your division.
Right. You're behind Pittsburgh in the wild card and the Mets. The Mets right now are the 3rd card holders, and you're only 3 out.
Which is crazy.
But you're behind like 4 or 5 teams.
You know, 4 weeks ago, the Mets were like a dumpster fire. Remember that guy? Who was the guy who was in the bullpen who like talked his way right out of town? He was like, he
threw his glove in the stands.
And he didn't.
Jorge Lopez.
There it is. And I mean, everybody was just like, the Mets are just a mess. And since then, they've won a bunch of baseball games. A lot of baseball games. The Giants are in 4th place. They have they have the 5th worst run differential in the National League. Yeah. Not okay.
No, unacceptable. And that's why the next couple of weeks, as we were talking about, become big. I don't think the Giants will be sellers per se. Alex Cobb might be a pitcher. You mentioned it earlier. That could be an interesting move, but I don't know if it's a sell if he hasn't even pitched. He hasn't helped you. He hasn't hurt you, but might be something that you do just because you have an excess of starting pitchers. But the next couple of weeks will determine just how aggressive you are in being a buyer in the trade market.
You want to take a stab at who leads the Giants in WAR on offense?
On offense?
Yeah.
Man, I've been running hot, so other than that last one that I missed. Yeah, thank you, Grandy. I like that. Bring it. I would imagine that it's got to be Elliot Ramos, the All-Star.
I asked you because I knew you'd say that.
Oh, crap.
And it is not Elliot Ramos. He is second on the Giants in WAR. It is none other, and it is a significant rise, almost a full win over Elliot Ramos, is Matt Chapman.
Chappie?
Matt Chapman.
Okay.
Matt Chapman has been, I know he's only hitting 235, but he's largely been a good player. He's been a positive for the Giants so far this year, no doubt.